Culture, powered by Flavor, with Dan, Shukal, and Itzy Red Scarf.
All right, welcome to the Culture Chat. We've got two very, very special guests in the building. Alicia and Emily, who come to us from the podcast, Whose Pussy Is This? And just a little bit of a warning to those that are tuning in tonight. Obviously, no warning for Shukal because she's used to this sort of talk. But
I love it.
Tonight's going to be a little bit more confronting than normal. We're going to be using some language you wouldn't normally hear on the Culture Chat. And we'll be talking about some things that you don't normally talk about at the dinner table on a Sunday evening. Well, in general senses, for general people. Some people are a little bit different. We've been pretty open in our lives, don't you reckon, guys?
Not at dinner table, not with my folks. I
Your
don't know what chats you're having.
What about you, Shukal? How do you feel about the topic of talking about sex and
love
sexual
it.
empowerment and female empowerment?
I absolutely love it. I find it so interesting, and it's just real. Like it's part of life. Like just be straight up about it.
How many times, because we were at a bar earlier today watching the UFC fight, shut up, style bender, by the way. How many times did you use the phrase, my vagina, you reckon, in the half an hour that we were down there?
What?
Yeah!
I think that was you.
No, what, my vagina?
Yeah, talking about yours.
Anyway, tell us a little bit more about your podcast and what it's about for those that weren't tuning in on the radio station.
Okay, so Whose Pussy Is This is basically, it's about taking ownership of your character, of your sexuality, because women in particular have been oppressed by men for centuries.
Yeah.
So it's like about, taking that ownership back.
Yes, girl.
Whose pussy is this?
But also just like creating like a safe space to talk about those taboo topics that most people can't talk about, and also creating like a safe place for men and women to have dialogue, because a lot of us don't really know how to communicate properly like in this like digital age, and with Instagram and social media, it's kind of making the gap between us a little bit bigger. So it's just kind of bringing that back together where we can kind of voice our opinions.
Yeah, it's and also like just about being really honest, and I think like quite straight up. I think definitely in this like social media age of everything is so accessible to you. Like you don't like someone, you can block them, you can download Tinder, swipe left or whatever way it is, and find someone else. You know. And like there's never any real like accountability held if someone like just ups and disappears from your life. So I think it's about like kind of making all of those actions and behaviors like really accountable for whoever's doing them.
You said something about dealing with past traumas and stuff that might be affecting
definitely
adult relationships.
Well, we always said like you got to know yourself to know what you want. So sometimes that can be really confronting to actually look at yourself and look at the past experience and traumas you have, and actually be like, what do I need to work on in order to have an effective relationship in the future?
A healthy relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also people like tend to put all of their like, I don't know, eggs in one basket, and they hope that if they meet one person that's going to change their whole life, they're going to be complete with them. And like you have to be 100% like in love with yourself before you can give any love to anyone else. It just doesn't work.
So true.
Well, you can't really love anyone unless you love yourself first.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's what she just said.
Yeah. I just felt like as soon as
I
repeat that.
I just want to sound real brainy and be like, yep, I'm going to
Do you
say
know what?
exactly the same.
He was obviously listening.
And how rare is it to find a man who will listen?
I mean, they love listening.
They listen to the podcast. A lot of our like most listened to episodes are ones with controversial titles, and they're mostly male listeners, which is really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the title of one of those?
How to Fuck a Girl with Daddy Issues.
Is
that
Wow.
And Big Dick Energy is one that like I think it was like 90% male listeners, that one.
Yeah, no, literally, like I was checking the stats of one of them last week, and I was like, Em, look at this, and she's like, what? And I was like, this many plays, 100% male, between the ages of 25 and 34 or something.
Wow.
So hopefully they're taking it home to their girls, their wives, their girlfriends. Like, it's not all just like how to like, you know, stick your dick in. It's about like a behavior and how to act right.
What's big dick energy?
It's not about the size of the phallus.
It's not about the size of the phallus. It's a colossal energy. So it's like basically it's about behaviors that differentiate men from boys. So like, you know, you're not a fuckboy if you've got big dick energy kind of vibe.
It's picking me up from outside of my house, choosing where the date is, opening the door for me.
Yeah, it's like making plans. It's like not being like, oh yeah, we should hang out soon, or like whatever, and you're like, yeah, cool, we should, and then nothing. It's about being like, I think we should go and do this. I've made plans to do this. I'll pick you up at this time.
Yes, because
And-
us girls love that.
Right, and also-
we love it.
I want to know what I'm going to wear.
Yeah.
So tell me, are we going temp bowling? Are we going for drinks? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Don't take me to the movies.
It's interesting though that you use the phrase "big dick" though, but it's not actually pertaining to what they
No.
do with their penis.
Absolutely not.
No,
it's the energy.
It's the
It's
energy.
the energy.
Because
Yeah.
some dudes with big dicks physically are the biggest
Dicks.
CUNTs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's my favorite word, by the
Yeah.
way.
CUNT. Me too, but I
Favorite word.
feel like I can't say it.
No, it is quite.
It's quite yeah.
aggressive.
but I love it.
Yeah.
I swear I heard you say it like 5 times today already.
I
Can't-
knew
she's trying to be ladylike because we've got ladies. Usually it's guys in here, so she's being all prim and proper. You don't have to be prim and
No.
proper.
Yeah.
Shaz.
Definitely don't have
I
to be
just-
like that with us.
No,
Yeah.
I can't. I say it all the time, but it makes me uncomfortable.
You don't
Like,
usually say, you kind of yell it at us. It's more like a, yeah, I'm like,
That's normally how it goes, isn't it?
yeah, and that like high pitch octave.
Yeah. So do you find when you're looking or when you get into a relationship, you start talking to a guy, you meet a guy, that sort of stuff, those things, how soon do you want to see that big dick energy coming through
Immediately.
From the get-go.
Yeah.
from the
off the
get-go?
bat,
Yeah.
Oh, they should have, or they should be.
Because we're going to...
Because you're on Tinder, Alicia?
Nah.
So you're not on Tinder? You're on Bumble or anything like that?
Nah, I don't use any dating apps.
Okay, so in what forum would you normally meet a guy?
I've had the odd Instagram DM slide through friends quite a bit. Like
Yep.
sometimes if we go out, I'm not. Yeah.
It's freaking hard to meet people without social media these days.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And also like I stay home a lot. Like I said to
We
Emily,
stay
I was
home
like,
a lot together.
I said to Emily one day, I was like, literally, like the man of my dreams has to walk in this front door because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Are you in a relationship, Emily?
No, I'm very, very single.
So it's interesting that you both stay home quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so you become quite reliant on friend circles to meet suitors.
Yeah.
Well,
the
I
moment.
guess so. But I think, to be honest, I think it's kind of nice to meet people in that kind of setting because someone has to vouch for them before, you know what I mean? Like, my friend's not going to introduce me to someone who's a total douche.
Don't you feel
Like-
it closes off your options and your ability or your reach to meet more men or more suitors or whatever, whether it's, whatever?
I guess so. I'm not like particularly actively searching for like a partner or anything right now though. So
Just working on you, happy
yeah,
with being
I'm
happy with
truly
you.
like, again, he's got to walk in my front door or something. Like maybe he's going to deliver a courier. I don't know. But like,
not the
I-
pizza guy.
Not the.
like
I've seen videos. like,
Pornhub.
it took you a whole 4 minutes to mention Pornhub, so you did well. Yeah.
I was thinking about it earlier.
Yeah.
What's the opposite to big dick energy? So what are
Big
females?
clit energy.
Big clit energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound.
I mean, you definitely don't want a big clit, really.
Wait, but actually, it might make it easier for some men
To
to
find
find
it.
Honestly.
So
I thought we were referring to what the opposite to a big dick energy guy was, being a guy having big clit energy.
No, I mean,
For a
yeah.
female.
Yeah,
Well,
what's the
there's
female?
also small dick energy, and that's just
Yeah.
What's some traits of someone with small dick energy?
Slides in. Oh wait, not even slides into my DMs. Follows me. Likes
Likes a
all
whole
my
bunch of
photos,
photos.
but does nothing after
oh
that.
my god.
You know that's not small dick energy. That's being a stalker. So that's like just being a creep.
Yeah.
Like if we're perfectly honest there.
But that's like putting in minimal effort and expecting maximum result. Like you think that I'm just going to take the bait and like
Yes.
slide into your DMs.
Yeah, and be like, oh my god, I saw that you liked all my photos.
You must be keen.
Please have sex with me right now.
And it's all the ones where I'm half naked, so I know it's my personality.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also after like 12 a.m. at night. So
yeah.
you definitely like my
Classic.
personality, especially at that time.
Why do you think guys still do things like that, especially in the age of Tinder, Bumble, all sorts of different types of dating apps? Why do they still do creepy things like that to get the attention of a woman?
It's so low risk. Like,
It's true.
it's
Fear
so
of rejection
low risk.
is a
yeah.
big factor.
yes, fear of rejection.
But also, like, I think women have progressed. We all know women have progressed so much in the last, like, decade.
Yeah, even like the last like 3 or 4 years.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the dating game, because we're all so confident, we know what we want, and we're we're quick to snap back if you're going to act out of line. That's even scarier for men because they have to kind of come bringing their big dick energy.
Do you think women in general have, because you talk about it developing, which I don't mean to use that word in a derogatory way or in a it comes across not the way that I mean it to sound. But do you think that it's particularly that you guys have particularly developed further or faster than what you guys did, say, in your early 20s or mid 20s?
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I think there's a lot more access to information now, though, as well. So, like, for us, like, knowing that we want to be a certain way or that we're doing this inner self-work in order to be, like, the best versions of ourselves before meeting somebody, you didn't have that same information, like, 10 years ago. Like, when I first joined, like, Facebook, for example, like, no one even uses Facebook anymore except, like, our mums. Like,
Shoko's mum uses Facebook. She added me. Hey, hi, Kay. Sorry, continue.
She will not be
Yeah.
watching this podcast. Anyways, sorry.
yeah, but, you know, like, so even, like, when you go back and look at, like, the things that you were sharing on Facebook 10 years ago versus what you can share now and how everything is so online and out there, you can, I don't know, that access to information makes you a lot more susceptible to grow. You know, like, people are always sharing, like, inspirational quotes and whatever else, and, like, that's great. But it's only good if you actually take on board what it actually says and what it means and grow from it. You can't just post something and just think, oh, I'm a good person now. Cool.
I'm woke now.
I'm woke.
do you think most women mean what they post when they post those sorts of inspirational quotes? Because I look at them and I see a young woman or an older woman or a middle-aged whatever, a woman of whatever age, men included as well, posting these inspirational quotes. Could be anything to do with, like, self-love or going to the gym or, you know, work or whatever. Do you think most people really mean it, or do you think they're doing it to fill a square on their Instagram?
I think it's a mix, but you can mean something one day and feel a different way about it the next day as
I
well.
feel like, exactly. It's like, it's important at that time. That's what they maybe think at that point. You
But
can definitely always see when someone's going through, like, a mental breakdown or a breakup or something. You can see, you know, a newly single girl all of a sudden is posting, like, thirst traps or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Hey, do you post thirst traps?
I don't.
Shoko?
No.
I do.
we posted one today actually
Yeah,
for
we did.
International Women's Day.
Oh, go check it
Yeah.
out. It's on their Instagram page.
It's a very good one.
Do you think days like celebrate? Because at the moment we have a celebratory day for everything.
Yeah.
You know, we have International Women's Day, and you know, fantastic reason to have a celebratory day. But we've got celebratory days for everything at the moment. Do you think it demeans some of the more meaningful days that we should be celebrating? For instance, Women's Day, or, you know, the right to vote, or Black History, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because at the moment we have everything. You have almost like, it's International Pizza Day, International Steak and Blowjob Day, International, you know what I mean though?
Yeah.
Does it demean the real important ones though, like today being International Women's Day?
I don't think so, because I think it's still, it is a celebration. It's still bringing, like, again, like, awareness to that particular thing.
And it's not a fight about what is more important. It's about having that day just a reminder to remember we're here to fight for equality, really.
Preach.
So what's been the most confronting topic? Not necessarily the one with the most
Views.
well, not necessarily the one with the most what's the word?
Streams or listens.
Yeah, or the one with the catch line title. What's been the most confronting issue you guys have had to talk about on your podcast?
Abortion.
We talked about termination, yeah.
Yeah.
Like unplanned pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy.
And specifically our own experiences with abortion as well. And I think that was probably the one we had the most feedback and, like, flood of messages, like, so much support.
Yeah.
Because 1 in 3 women experience abortion. Like, everyone knows someone who's experienced abortion, whether you know of it or not. And the fact that it's not a spoken about topic, and it's such a difficult thing to go through, that the fact that we've been able to talk about something that's made other women feel safe and feel like they're not alone was probably one of our biggest things.
Definitely. Yeah, that one, like, we got so many messages, like crazy amounts of support from women who even had, like, been through something similar or had knew someone or didn't have any support. Like, it's pretty incredible. And to think that happens, like, in this day and age is beyond.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild. People have been having babies forever, you know? Yeah. So they've obviously also not been having them for a really long time as well.
Why do you think people are still so anti-abortion?
Well, I think
it's
linked
because
to
it's
value and belief, and like obviously religion is a big
Religion,
thing.
yeah.
yeah,
things like
it's like a play God complex,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think, with religion, and cultural beliefs and things like that, they don't agree with it. Yeah.
It's it's also a confronting situation for a male partner too to be involved in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I know there's not quite the same physical impact, but mentally for a guy, it's quite a it's quite a difficult thing to go through too.
Yeah.
I since we're talking about it, I turned 18 on my 18th birthday. My girlfriend at the time had an abortion on my 18th birthday. I was pretty young at the time,
Yeah.
and it was kind of strange to try and work out the coping mechanism to deal with it. You know what I mean? Do you think, obviously women deal with it differently to men, but when you're talking about abortion in that episode that you did on your podcast, was what the male perspective a topic of discussion in that at all, or not really? Or
I think we kind of talked about how it positively impacted both of our lives,
Yeah.
because we were able to like pursue our careers and our dreams the way we were able to,
Yeah.
because we made the choice, obviously. But it's hard to know specifically how to speak on behalf of males, because not all of them support the other women while they're going through their abortion.
Not only that, we didn't actually have a male perspective on it.
yeah,
So like, it's like if you ask us like, I don't know, about like gay people or, transgender or something, we can't really speak on something that we don't have a perspective on. It's kind of like not, I don't know. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
100% makes sense.
And like at the time of when I had my termination, my boyfriend at the time, he was like, oh, it's not mine. It's not mine. It's not mine.
Oh, yeah.
So like we never had, and again, at that time I was really young, so we never had the conversation about it. I never really knew how he was really feeling about it, because he accused me of it being someone else's, which it absolutely was not. But
Yeah.
Do you guys have guests on your podcast so you can get those different opinions?
we have had a guest one time. Yeah, we had a male on. It was really fun, actually.
I think
Yeah.
it's actually really just hard to find men that feel really comfortable talking about sex and sexuality and like their personal. I mean, it's really hard to talk about your personal life and feel safe on the internet. So I think that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest struggle with us, finding guests that feel as comfortable.
It was
as we
actually
do.
really hard to even
Yeah.
find him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because most people don't want to share stuff, and also there's like a bit of a stigma around the podcast. Everyone thinks that we share absolutely everything, and it's all about sex, and it's all of these things, and like it is, but it's also not that. Like, like we don't tell everyone everything. Like we still have like a private life, But it's a lot for people to have to still open up, because it is, again, like quite confronting, or like it exposes them to things. Like they don't want to be guys who are known for whatever, bad thing they did in the weekend.
And I guess you also don't want to be in a position where it crosses a line from being an informative podcast about a certain topic, then moving into a bullying type thing where you start
Yeah.
calling people out. Like you said
Yeah.
before, you use pseudonyms for people. You don't get like nicknames. You don't give them. You don't use the real names and that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You got to be quite wary and conscious of that in today's day and age.
Definitely. And it's also kind of out of respect as well. Like, the guys who have ever said to me, like, oh, I don't want to be content, like, whatever. Like, first of all, I'm going to 100% nickname you. Like, you're not going to have your actual name.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's, like, respectful to not talk about certain people, especially if they don't feel comfortable about it.
Even if they're a real prick.
Even if they're a real prick.
The most prickest of pricks, you would not put them on blast.
The most prickest of pricks I wouldn't put on blast. Even, like, I put people on blast on Instagram all the time if they send me gross DMs and stuff. But sometimes I black out their names because, it's not up to like my followers, for example, to like go and keyboard warrior against someone
Yeah.
else. It's more just to
Because they're going to
show.
support us, especially because like we have a lot of female listeners. If a guy's going to come into the mix and he's not going to be on side with us, yeah.
And you don't need the defense. You guys
Yeah.
seem pretty confident, pretty strong, able to be able to look after yourselves. You don't need your followers getting in behind you like the beehive.
Exactly.
And it's immature as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's fine, but like there are times where it doesn't really matter,
Yeah, definitely.
How often are you guys harassed by guys with like dick pics and that kind of stuff? Is that quite a common?
Oh.
I would say we get more harassed in like a slut shaming manner. Like
Yeah.
some of the comments we get on our videos, like I'm like, well, you obviously enjoyed it because you watched till the end.
Yeah, and you're obviously listening. So thank you for the views, thank you for the likes, subscribes.
But like some of them like say like, well, I don't want like your secondhand pussy.
Yeah.
What?
But like
Yeah.
I'm like, so you're only accepting versions. Like
Yeah.
So it's just like a double standard.
No, honestly,
my
it's
gosh.
like they can dip their dick in whatever they want, but come to like women who are sexually empowered who have maybe had more than one sexual partner, and that's not okay.
That's not okay.
But they can have
They can
50
have
million.
as many as they
Yeah.
want
But
But
then
we
they'll
can't.
they'll also expect you to have the experience
of a hoe.
of a hoe. Like
God.
it makes no sense.
See what we put up with?
Well, I think it's because most of those guys that are, or if they are males or females, because women do it as well, particularly when they feel like you're talking about a confronting issue that they think, well, we shouldn't be talking about that, or women shouldn't be putting themselves out like that, or anyone for that matter.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem. And I imagine there's some guys out there who are doing it to make themselves feel better because the things you're saying are relating to them. It's hitting a nail into them. They know that you're talking about them without directly talking about them.
I think they definitely project their own insecurities
Yeah.
or
Oh, definitely.
their own values or whatever, and,
And
they don't know
women do
how
it to
be.
us as well.
Yeah,
I was going to
sure.
ask. Have
Yeah.
you? Obviously you get weird men commenting stuff, but what about the women?
I mean,
Women haters or?
I don't
we
think
haven't had much, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I think we're not at a big enough platform in order for people to DM us hate, because most of the people who will listen to us kind of know us or know of us or are friends of friends of friends.
Yeah.
So
Also, I think like most of the people who listen to us are the people who should be.
Yeah.
And if you're not if they're not and they've got something negative to say, well, we're not trying to talk to you anyway.
exactly.
You know, like it's not aimed at people who don't have that same.
Well, you're talking to the people that are of the same mindset as you, correct?
Yeah.
Generally?
Or like at least are open-minded
Yeah.
to it.
Or trying to like
Understand.
get on that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether they just want to expand their mind and open it. It doesn't have to be that we expect everyone to live the same lifestyle as us or whatever.
We had
Yeah.
probably the biggest backlash we had was like from our jobs. We were
Oh, really?
told that we weren't allowed to talk about it in the workplace
Yeah.
because it was making other people feel uncomfortable.
What?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, what industry do you work in?
In
What
beauty
kind of
industry.
Beauty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was called sexual harassment.
On what
To,
grounds?
Exactly.
to discussing.
Honestly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you had an employer, obviously we're not going to say names or anything, but you had an employer basically say to you that someone had made a sexual harassment case because you were talking at work about a topic that came up on your podcast.
It was basically a complaint. So there was no actual case or anything, but basically they were like, you need to basically not talk about this at work at all.
Because it's making other people feel uncomfortable.
That's really odd.
Right.
Again, it's generally all female industry?
Majority. Yeah.
majority. Yeah.
Which was kind of ironic to us because they're like, it's kind of weird because the whole purpose of the podcast is to empower women and support women, and you're telling us that we're doing the opposite. Makes
Yeah.
no sense.
It was pretty shit when
Yeah.
that happened.
That's real
Because,
shit.
Yeah. Well, everything that we stand for is to empower women. Literally everything I do is for women. So it's really crazy that was kind of flipped
Yeah, it
up
was a
on
slap
us.
in the face for sure.
Because
Yeah.
you can either take the sword that is topics of a sensitive nature and either use it as a, something that you help cope yourself with, or you use it as a tool to sort of elevate people around you. You know, and I think what you're doing with your podcast and the discussions that you bring out, it's not like you're just out there talking about, last night I fucked this guy or this happened or that.
Exactly.
You're out
No.
there talking about real stuff that happens to real people in an era where you used the term woke before. People are supposed to be so woke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they still are afraid to be confronted with issues around promiscuity or around lifestyle or around sexual issues or even just human issues that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you-
absolutely.
Well, we talk about sexual health and STDs and stuff like that. We want people to be safe. We're not saying go out and fuck as many people as you can in like a 24-hour period or anything. Like,
my God.
you know, we still want people to make like really educated decisions and make really smart choices. So
Yeah, but it's also being safe with your emotions and your mental health. Like, are
Yeah.
you capable of sleeping with that many people and feeling okay at the end of the day? Not everyone has the capacity to do that. So it's about like looking into yourself and asking, what kind of relationships can I handle and what other boundaries I can set so that way I don't get hurt in the process.
And that brings everything back full circle to what you talked about before about loving yourself.
Yeah.
You know, needing to love yourself first before you go and
exactly.
You know,
And you have to fix like your traumas, whether they come from your childhood or from like your past relationships. Like, I found myself falling into the same relationship patterns over and over and over and over again. I was like, okay, well, this is the same but slightly different every time. And you know, people say the definition of insanity is like doing the same thing expecting a different result. So I was like, okay, well, I'm literally driving myself crazy by doing this, so why don't I take myself out of this? And then you figure out what it is to change that pattern of that behavior, and then that's how you fix
Very,
that.
very true.
And is there sort of places that you suggest, or if I'm a female and I've realized that there's something wrong, or not something wrong with me, but I'm viewing or acting a certain way which is hurting me constantly.
Yeah.
What do you suggest to them? Like, is there certain help that you guys
I mean,
recommend?
I think you need to like look at what it is, like whether you're drinking every weekend and you're going out and you're making poor choices because of that. Maybe don't do that. Maybe it's your friends that you surround yourself with. Like, you know, you are who you hang out with. People say that all the time as well. Like, looking at your circle as well, because there's influences around you that you don't even know.
Also, therapy is for everybody.
Therapy, like talking works.
Like, you don't have, there doesn't have to be specifically anything wrong with you for you to want to talk to someone and like get to know yourself better. And sometimes it takes talking to someone who has a completely unbiased opinion to really understand where your patterns are coming from and what specific traumas are resulting in that certain behavior in your lifestyle.
And to tell you that you're not crazy and
Exactly.
you're not alone, because I think a lot of people are scared to go through that whole process. 'Cause
Yeah.
they think it's just them that is that way.
Yeah,
But
and
a
I think
lot of people are going through similar things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
well,
I
there's-
think
sorry.
also, I think also people think that therapy is like a really bad thing, like,
Yeah,
and it's
I was
embarrassing
just
or it's
about to say.
shameful
Or
or
you're
something.
showing
But
weakness by having to
it's
go talk to
like,
someone.
it shows so much strength going to
Exactly.
therapy, or like deciding, okay, I think I need to do something about this and doing it, because there's only so much self-help that you can do before you actually think, okay, maybe I need some professional advice or opinion.
I'm a huge proponent of therapy.
Yeah.
I've undertaken therapy on and off for like 20 years,
Yeah.
you know, and the ability to be able to sit down and talk to somebody, even doesn't necessarily always have to be about the issues you're going through, but being able to just use somebody as a sounding board for things. And if you listen and watch our podcast enough, you hear about my ups and downs of my mental health and things like that. So, you know,
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to therapy, and I thought I was incredibly weak at the time. I didn't want to go. I went to a place called Manaki House, and used to be in Panmure. And it was basically, you know, a government-run facility where you would go and by the Ministry of Health and go talk to a counsellor. And it was one of the best things I did, and it made me comfortable with talking with different people about what I go through now. Today, in today's day and age, I'm very open.
Yeah.
I'll talk about anything to anyone. Doesn't matter. Me and my mum, my dad. My mum and dad were the type of, you know, my dad was like, harden up, son, you'll be right, you know, type of old man. But now, in today's day and age, he's a little bit more open to talking and understanding. And so that therapy helped me, but also helped the people around me understand how to manage their reactions and their associated feelings with what I was going through as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Well, it does. It's like, it's got like that, you know, like placebo effect. People like see you like, what's the word, like thriving, you know, after being at therapy or whatever, and they start to see that it's obviously helping you, and then that changes their whole attitude around you as well.
What's your thoughts on therapy for relationships and couples? You pro? You mean you like
Yeah,
it?
100%, definitely. Like, I mean, depending on your situation, obviously, like, I've got a friend who goes to therapy and so does her partner, and they actually seek separate therapists, which I think is really cool. But like, if you've got a particular issue between the two of you, like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really not learn anything from it.
Did you guys hear about how Barack Obama and Michelle Obama came out about how they go to therapy regularly or like
Yeah.
and it was really cool because like everyone kind of idolizes them and ships them, and to see someone who that we think is perfect on the outside like take on those precautions just to have better communication. It's just about having a healthy relationship, and communication is key to everything.
Well, look at the communicative tool that was used with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, two uber high profile people, show everyone else that it's okay to have weakness in relationships and weakness in mental issues or weakness in themselves at times. That doesn't make you any less of a person, but being able to encourage people to find the right help and the right avenues, I think was a pretty cool thing by them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you guys do the same sort of thing. I mean, you talked before about your reach or your platform not being that big right now, but what you're doing is you really are helping people.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it.
I think like even because we don't even have that many followers, like the engagement we do get and the messages we do get like just make it so worth it. The fact that we're just, people can see themselves in us and people can identify with the issues we're going through, but also the fact that a lot of it is subconscious. You don't really realize a lot of things are happening until someone says it out loud. And it's cool just to have a really safe platform and have that conversation open again.
Honestly, we just sit on our shitty little couch at home and like film and record and talk, and like it's cool to see that has absolutely like transformed people, like their relationships, and it's so nice.
It's pretty cool that you guys have been able to define what you want in a man, the big dick energy. But has it made you look at yourselves in terms of how you are as a partner?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that I would be like, and because I'm so sure of what I want, I think it then makes the pool a lot smaller. Yeah. Because I don't know, we're a whole lot of women, and so it has to be the right kind of man who can come along and balance that.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages?
Yeah, we
Gary
talk
Chapman?
about it.
We talk
on
about it
one
on
of
our
our
podcast.
podcasts, yeah.
Oh, yes.
So
Such a thing.
I got presented that book by my girlfriend when I was 22.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were going through couples therapy at the time. And it was quite interesting though, because I was like, the fuck we need couples therapy for?
At 22.
At 20,
That's crazy.
she was pretty intense. Like, don't get me wrong, the girlfriend at the time was a pretty intense person. She had come from a background of having a family with substance issues and things like that. So she was looking at everything from an analytical perspective all the time. She was analysing everything. And so we would argue every now and then. I mean, nothing like I would have in some of my future relationships, but enough to make her go, nah, something's not right here. You know, there's a problem here. We need to go see a counsellor. And one of the cool things that I got out of going to a counsellor was her buying me this book. It was The 5 Love Languages. Have you guys heard of it?
Is there like the 5 different ways people show love?
Yeah,
From like physical to gifts and
What's the most important aspect to them?
Well, yeah.
That shows you how you can love them.
Yeah, well, and love yourself too, and the way that they love you, because what you want to look for, it's like saying yourself, there are 5 columns or 5 lanes, and I match up in these 5 lanes, and I want to have a partner who, you know, understands what lanes I'm in, and then I can understand what lanes they're in, so we get into a much more communication. I don't mean from a talking level, but from a feeling and a sensual and a sexual and all those other platform type of level. And so, yeah, it's very, very cool. But what I found from going through that was I didn't necessarily figure out necessarily what her 5 otherwise we'd probably be here today. Those 5 love languages were. But I found out what my love languages were that I spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually changed how I loved myself and appreciated myself as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you guys? What's your love languages?
Both of ours, I think, is words of affirmation.
No, that's my number 2. My number 1 is physical touch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So just like, even if it's a glancing stroke down the arm or
Like-
hand behind your back type
Yeah,
thing.
but like I'm quite a big hugger as well. Like, so when I see people, I give them hugs. Like, I don't know, it's like I like touch.
We
Yeah.
kind of talk about that. We think that what your love language is what you kind of were deprived of growing up.
Like in one of your traumas as a child or
Exactly.
whatever.
So
yeah.
because I had a pretty rigid family where we kind of didn't talk openly about things and didn't like appraise things like very openly. Like, I love being told that in detail what someone loves about me and what I have to offer.
Good girl, Em.
Verbal.
That was such a guy thing to do too. What a prick, eh?
Oh, small dick energy.
Yes.
He didn't say that you're beautiful though, so it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
physical touch is another one that's high up on my list, just because it wasn't really something that I grew up with as well.
What about acts of service?
I think that's how I show my love.
Yeah.
Because I think I like to receive
Yeah.
it differently to how I show it. Like
Yeah.
I love cooking for
Yeah,
my
doing stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do the same thing for your friends?
Yeah.
Oh, we do it for each other all the
Yeah,
time.
always.
Yeah.
So do girls practice with each other? And then
Whoa. No.
What's the
Obviously not that
context?
kind of stuff.
Small dick energy.
Hey, we're talking about
You just wanted to say it.
Amen.
You just wanted to say that. Oh no, I mean like when you want to be the best partner that you can be, do girls kind of talk about that, or do you guys run trials on each other and how to treat?
Trials.
But well, not trials. That's obviously the wrong wording. But say for example, I want to be the best partner I can be. I can't talk to my guy mates about it because we just don't have that like
Dialogue.
Guys at all don't have that kind of dialogue. Actually, we girls think that we probably talk about our partners. No, we're real basic. We talk about things like sport, food, fights.
I don't know. I think there are guy relationships like that, but
Yeah.
I look at you and me though. We talk about some pretty personal stuff on a personal level.
You guys talk about relationships and girls, but in like a sexual manner, or like. You know what I mean?
Okay, if
you
Elliot,
don't get like
can you
emotional with it.
Elliot, can you put the camera on me for a second? Catherine, if you're watching this, that is not what we talk
That is
about.
no.
Do not listen to Shoko.
I said
for a second.
boys.
I
was
love you.
boys in general. Whereas us
So
females.
do you think guys
Oh.
sit and talk about sexual conquest? Is that what you mean?
like, you're like, oh wait, did you see that chick? She's hot. Like, oh, look
Oh,
at this chick.
no,
okay,
that's not
yeah,
what I was
yeah.
referring to though. You know, like the discussions that we would have around like stuff going on in your relationship or stuff going on in my relationship. I'm not necessarily talking about the ones we're in now though.
Yeah,
You know,
are you guys
mental
open
health.
with each other about what's going on in your relationships?
For me personally, I'm a person that if it's between me and my partner, then it's between me and my partner. If I'm seeking like kind of female advice, or if I'm turning to my guy mates, I'm probably just trying to vent frustration without coming off. Say for example, if we had an issue, I want to try and say it to my guy mates, so then I know how to properly say it without coming off like, man, you're a dick.
Man, you're a
What
bitch.
a fucking dickhead.
We talk a lot about mental health stuff though. You know, and I think part of that's purely because of my history. You know, and I think that's a big part of it because a lot of my mental health history, Eti's been around a lot of that, particularly in the last decade. You know, so yeah, I don't know. My cousin, I was in Melbourne and I was rooming with my cousin. We shared a hotel room, and we're both. So I'm 38, he's 41, and I'm kind of, you know, because I'm a bigger guy, so I'm kind of a little bit more like subtle with like what I wear around the house or that sort of thing. My cousin's like walking around in undies, and he turns around to me and goes, "You reckon girls do this all the time? Just walk around in their undies and talk about life and all this sort of thing?" And yeah, I was about to say, that's the question. Is that what all girls do, or some girls, or what? Like,
I think I don't know if it's all girls, but like I've never had such an intimate friendship that I've had with Alicia, like to the point where like I used to think that I was trying to find my other half in like a guy, and like literally like I've never met a soulmate in like a best friend form.
Literally.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you guys. That leads me to my next question, what I've been wanting to ask for a little bit.
Yeah.
The background of your podcast. How did it begin? How long has it been going on for? And how did you two become like so close?
We were like pretty much
We were
connected
like
from
best
day
friends.
dot.
Yeah. We got tattoos on our first date.
Yeah. And we
First
hung
date.
out like every Sunday.
That's mine. Hers is.
Oh, mine's like I can't. We're not revealing.
And then we got second ones. This one.
Oh yeah, we've got that one together.
So we got
the
two
third eye.
tattoos together. Yeah.
And we literally, because we have the same weekends, we would like hung
Yeah,
out
every
almost every
weekend.
weekend since the first time we hung out, and then now we live together.
Yeah.
But
You work together?
we
Yeah.
work
Oh,
together as well.
Did. We still do, but distantly. Yeah.
But also, we always would just have these really in-depth, vulnerable conversations. And also, as we said before, we are kind of like mother figures or aunties to our friends and family and our
friends. Yeah, everyone.
So we were kind of like, every time we would have this like really deep conversation or kind of have like this spark of an idea that we're like, that makes so much sense. We're like, we need a podcast.
Yeah, literally. We talked about it for like maybe 6 months. We were like, fuck, we need a podcast. Like, we just have these like revelations and we'd be like, oh my God, we're amazing. We need to share this with people. And then so one day we were like, fuck it. And so we just recorded our first one was on my phone and it's like terrible audio quality. Like it's so bad. We're drinking tea. You can hear things in the background. I'm like eating coughing. At some point. Like,
how long ago was this?
That was
6 months ago. Oh,
no, June last year I think was when we
Okay.
recorded our first one and like posted it.
We were so
So it's only been going
nervous.
for like 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had a bit of a
Ongoing.
break for the past few months, but like
Yeah, we've been on hiatus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
we've been
Summer
healing.
holiday.
Well, like we did have like, so when we first started, like we were really excited about it and we recorded I think almost every weekend for like a really long time.
for months. And if like you guys would know, if as content creators, like you get drained from trying to create new ideas all the time. And also you don't want to sound repetitive, especially when that content is accessible to go back to over and over again. You want it to be really solid so that if someone is thinking about this idea or seeking advice, that they can go back and actually have really solid sound advice. I think the space for us was just to remain creative.
Yeah, we kind of felt like for a little while we were sort of regurgitating the same thing, which was fine, but it was like it needs to be way more educational now because otherwise we're just coming out with just the same old chat.
Yeah, otherwise we're just talking about sex all the time and that's not what we want to be about.
Yeah.
Even though it's fun and sex sells and men especially engage with our sex topics, but at the core of what we want to do is help grow other people.
It's my biggest pet hate when someone is like, oh, you have a podcast about sex. And I'm like, oh my God, it's
way
not.
more than that.
It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
I'm like, and you would know that if you listen to it, but you don't. You just look at the title and you think, oh, cool, she's like easy.
Two girls gossiping about boys.
And admittedly, that can be the first impression. I think when we were talking in our group chat a little bit about it, and then I sort of came back to Sugar, and I think I said in that to you in the group chat, I was like, oh, it's about female empowerment, sexual empowerment, and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's that old book by its cover being judged and then not really understanding till you sort of flip a couple of pages in and have a little bit of a read.
Yeah.
You guys are touching more than just the surface. You're actually digging really deep on some really intense issues for some people.
Yeah. And I think also like people just don't know how to handle women who are just so confident and open about things. Like I talk about masturbating all the time. Like women don't talk about masturbating. Men talk about masturbating. They talk about wanking off all the time.
All the
and
time.
No one gives a like literally, but no one gives a shit. But when women do, people are like, what? Did that girl just say that she's masturbating?
Like, must be horny as
fucking
fuck.
relax. She must be so horny. Oh, she's keen.
First of all, you're absolutely right.
First of all, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But
But
also
there's a difference between being confident and being, I like to use the term sometimes, because there is fuck girls as well.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But you're just confident in who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
You can
but-
talk about that.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you, so since the first episode to where you're at now, have you found that you've grown in certain areas and you look back at some of the things you've said in the past and been like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I should have worded this better? Or is it kind of like, I've said this and I'm sticking to it all the way down here?
No, I mean, there's definitely like, it's really hard to take your own advice sometimes, and we really do try to take the advice that we give to our listeners, but like, you have to give yourself a break. Sometimes you mess up, and sometimes you're like, yes, I'm drinking dumb bitch juice and I'm doing the wrong I'm doing the wrong thing, but I'm
Dumb bitch
consciously
juice.
doing the wrong thing. Like I know
Yeah.
I'm doing the wrong thing and I'm going to accept the consequences.
Exactly. I think you have to be accountable for everything. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. But also like in the past, like if I've said anything, most of the time I'm really outspoken. I'm pretty obnoxious and I say what I think and I say it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And then I'm like, oh, well, someone else is thinking it. It's fine. And like, I just feel like you should actually stick to what you are saying, because like it's about being accountable for those things. And like, yeah, I try and like every time I'm having some kind of difficult situation with a guy, for example, I'm always like, okay, what would I say on my podcast? Like, what would I give advice to someone else in this instance? And then I'm like, I have to practice what I preach. Otherwise, I'm no good to anyone.
Yes. So true.
You know how you can state what you want from a guy. Do you ask the guy what they want and where their expectation?
Yeah,
and
100%.
How does that conversation kind of come up? Is it a?
It really depends, I think, on the situation. But like at this point, like I'm pretty like black and white. So like I'll be like, this is what I'm looking for. What about you? Kind of thing. Like
when you get to 30, 31,
yeah, exactly.
You don't have
maybe
time
yes.
to be messing around little
Like,
games anymore.
absolutely not. Like it's just not worth it. Like so if you're not like aligned with me, that's cool. Like there's no bad blood, whatever, just see ya.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even have to have that conversation to know what you are to that person, because their behavior speaks it louder than what words can. Like if they're constantly messaging you, they're putting in the effort, they're showing up, they're being respectful of you, I don't need to question where I stand with that person.
No. As soon as you do start to question it or you start to wonder, that's when that conversation is really important to be had. And I think a lot of people, that's kind of where they tend to drop off when they're dating, is they're like, oh, it gets to that point and no one does anything about it.
Yeah.
And so someone's always left hurt or upset or whatever. Whereas like I think it's really important to hold someone accountable for the way that they've made you feel, because it's not about intent, it's about the impact of that.
So what is your suggestion to? So when feelings and common sense, when it comes to a relationship, they don't tend to go hand in hand. You can give the best advice in the world and have the best advice, but you know when you're in that lovey-dovey feeling, you let certain people treat you a certain way, or you lower your own expectations.
Yeah.
What do you suggest to females when it comes to that part?
I've been there. I've 100% been there before, but I think some people just have to learn the hard way. It doesn't matter how much advice you get. If you want somebody and you want to do it, like that person's going to do it. And you,
there's only so many times you can be told, I don't think that's a good idea, but you still were going to do it. It's like if someone says, don't look at that, you're like,
yes,
every time.
Yeah.
all you can do is respect that person's journey and be like, this is advice I'm giving you. If you need to live it out, you live it out, but I'm going to be here for you to pick you back up when you're coming out of it.
Yeah. I think also that's a good point to like when for people to really look at their own expectation, because you can project your expectations onto someone else and they might not have the same one as you. So you have to be really honest with what your actual underlying expectation is in that situation. So if it's not the same as the other person, maybe that's when you need to call it off.
What's the difference between a friend with benefits and a fuck boy? Fuck buddy. Sorry.
We actually have a podcast about this.
Oh my god,
we have a podcast. It's called
Someone's done their homework.
It's the booty call Bible is what we called it. Yeah.
It's fuck buddies, friends with benefits, and situationships.
Yeah.
Snow Allegra vibes. I love that.
That was
song.
actually before that song came out as
Oh,
well.
so-
Yeah. So thanks. Snow. She took it
Well,
from us.
fuck buddy, I would say it's the most casual form of relationship you can have.
Yeah.
Everything about the interaction has to be about sex. Like, we're not going to converse when we're in the bed. We're not going to converse outside of the bedroom. The only time we're going to talk is when you're going to text me and be like, I'm going to meet you at this time.
Yeah, it's up to.
Exactly. And then you come in, you do the deed, and you leave. There's no cuddling. There's no kissing. There's no, like, how was your day? How are you feeling about this? It's like, just, I came, actually, so you need to leave.
Yeah.
Whereas
It's just about sex.
it's just about sex.
And you don't really have a relationship really with them other than that.
Yeah.
Basically. Your friends with benefit is definitely more like you've got some kind of established friendship. And then you have benefits to that. But then when you're out and about, you're not like a couple, if that makes sense. So if
Yeah.
you hang in the same circle, you're not like holding hands or you're not like chatting to your mates about it, like, oh, I'm going to take him home later tonight or whatever.
Yeah. But I feel like friends with
There's a
benefits.
mutual understanding.
Yeah. Friends with benefits requires like two really mature people that have really great communication, because there's so many areas where the lines can be blurred if you're going to be hanging out whilst also having sex.
I think your friends with benefit, there also has to be like a deal breaker so that you don't want to date.
Yeah.
So like there's got to be something that you just are like, nah, we'll never date this
Yeah.
person, and that's why it works.
Yeah.
What are you more inclined to have partaken in the past?
Friends with benefits.
Yep.
Because I can't, I mean, like words of affirmation is like my love language, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I can't have sex with someone that I can't have a conversation with.
Yeah.
And having a conversation with someone is part of foreplay to me. It's intimacy.
Yeah.
So for me, I can have a friendship with someone and have sex with someone.
Yeah.
But also, again, have that deal breaker to make sure that I know this is where it ends.
Yeah. Also, I don't really like to sleep with people I don't know. Like, I feel like I need to have some kind of like understanding of them as a person rather than just like having
Yeah, I
sex
don't know
with
how
them.
some girls do it. Like,
I mean,
I know I can understand why boys do it.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
So what's the difference?
well, boys.
Why with boys can you understand why boys do it, but you don't understand how some girls didn't do it? What's the difference?
Because guys don't need that. They're not as emotional creatures as us females.
I'm a
are.
pretty
don't
emotional person.
I just don't think they
And-
think about it as much.
No,
Whereas
yeah.
women
Whereas
tend to
our brains
analyze
are,
it a lot
analyze
more.
all the time. Plus,
that-
you guys come every single time. So you know, well, not every. I don't know. That might be
I would say more than us.
like way more than
You can
us.
go
You're talking about
into sex.
orgasming.
You can go into sex
Orgasming.
knowing that you are going to orgasm
You
pretty much without fail
yeah,
every time.
90%.
For us,
you're
it's
going
like
to do
It's a
it.
gamble.
Oh, it's 50-50.
It's not even that.
Exactly.
It's like 2080.
Depends who you're with.
Depends on the person. But yeah.
But if it's someone you barely have a connection with, it's so hard.
and you need that
Exactly.
chemistry, I think.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need that chemistry. Otherwise, we're not going to get to that. Great.
That's why you almost
Oh.
always have better sex with a friends with benefits than a fuck buddy because
Yeah.
communication is in the mix. And you're also going to have more regular sex and more open sex. So you're going to figure out what each other like because you're talking about it more, you're practicing, you're seeing each other regularly.
Although, in saying that, I've actually probably had like the best sex of my life with people that I don't really care about. Like legitimately. When I actually really like someone, I'm like, oh, this is boring.
Or your
Be
exes
over
are
with
like,
already. No, honestly, everyone that I actually like, I'm like, oh fuck.
Really?
Yeah.
And why do you
I
think?
can't
Why do you
relate to
think that is? Is it
This
bec-
is my traumas that I'm
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah, because I'm
from.
the total opposite.
I'm the total opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if I don't like you or have some sort of attraction or feeling to you,
I
Yeah.
definitely
I'm just
still
like,
need
oh,
the
get it over and
chemistry,
done with.
but if it's someone that I just am not interested in, like remotely, like in dating, I'm like, it's way more fun.
I think it's easier for you because, yeah, you don't
Is it
have
'cause
to
you-
be as vulnerable.
Is that because your inhibitions are lowered? You're not really worried about trying to please them. You're not worried about trying to
I'm not worried
placate to
about
their
catching
feelings.
feelings, so that means I know that I'm not going to get hurt.
And by the same token, they're probably feeling the same way as well, possibly. You know,
Potentially,
if the
although I have been known to be being called a black widow in the past. So,
do you want to elaborate a little bit?
like definitely, this is like a few years ago, but like I for sure had lots of kind of casual encounters, and I broke a few hearts in the process. But
So
with,
guys were
like,
catching feelings.
yeah, and I'd be like, "See ya."
Were you clear with them?
Probably not as much as I should have been, for sure. But I've always tried to maintain like forever in any kind of casual relationship or even non-casual. I believe in karma a lot. So like I never just want to like ghost someone. I always give someone a reason why I don't want to see them as opposed to just like disappearing.
That's a respectful thing to do, though.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
talking more about in the beginning. So you've obviously made it quite clear in your mind that it's just a hookup. But
Yeah.
have you been clear with that with them?
Probably not, but only because I would probably also just presume that they were on the same page.
And what happens when you find out that they're not on the same page?
And I'm like, oh,
That's when
I
you
don't
have
know
a
what to do now.
situationship.
And what if the sex is really good, and it's a situation that is covering the bases for you at that time? Do you continue with it, or do you say to them there and then, no, we can't do this anymore? Because
no, because it was all about me.
yeah,
Like,
so you're gonna keep doing it.
honestly, exactly. It's just like how fuckboys
The
do it.
Black
though.
Widow.
No,
There
but
you
like
go.
honestly, I can. It's like a fuck girl situation.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
of course, you get what you can from it. And
I
you
didn't
do
want to say
like,
that either.
No,
but
like
it is a little
but,
bit.
Of course, but like we talk about this on the podcast too. Like, I think it's important to be totally honest about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we always say as soon as you start to question where you stand with someone is when you need to have that conversation, the
Yeah.
what are we conversation, whether that's fuck buddies, friends with benefits, we're dating, we're seeing where it goes. especially when it comes to if it's just sex or not, because I need to know that the time I'm investing in you, is it going anywhere or isn't it?
And those conversations have to be really a mutual agreement as well. Like, you can be talking to someone on like messaging or whatever, but that's not a title. It doesn't mean anything. You might just be talking. It's not exclusive until it's like established that it is exclusive, and you're not actually dating if you're not going out on dates and actually spending that time together. So those are 3 separate titles entirely, you know?
So was it more like just a booty call situation for you when you're in the Black Widow phase?
I think
That's
so.
the only way to refer to it now, the Black Widow phase of
What are her phases? We're only going through Black Widow phases.
there's multiple phases
This is
of it.
actually leveling up from the whole phase.
She's levels to this shit.
She's evolved. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the time, like, I didn't have a lot of care for a lot of things in my life. Like, I've talked about this on the podcast before. Like, I was like going out a lot. I was doing a lot of drugs. I was drinking. Like, it was like a very transformative time of my life.
Lacking in self-love.
100%. I hated myself for a really long time, like for a lot of my adult life. And so that's like was my destructive behavior.
Did you speak to somebody about that?
Nah, not at the time, to be honest. Like, I think there was just a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I just like didn't go out. I didn't do anything. Like, I saw a couple of my friends like maybe end of last year, and they're like, we haven't seen you in so long. You look really good, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I don't like hate myself anymore. I'm not doing all these destructive behaviors.
Nice.
Did you find that there was a time when, whether you were in that Black Widow phase or around that or whatever, that the tables turned on you a little bit, where you found yourself in a position of being the one that catches the feelings, and the guy's like, you know?
Yeah.
For sure. Like, I've had the shoe on the other foot for sure. So I feel like that's why a lot of our advice is really sound, because I've done it.
You've experienced both sides.
Yeah. And I don't act like I'm like this perfect person or whatever, because there's probably some guys out there that I've really hurt and not even known that I have. Yeah.
What about in your adult life, Emily? Well, if you were to look at, I guess we've sort of seen a little bit of a snapshot of Alicia's adult life a little bit. If we were to take a snapshot of your adult life, how would you what sort of phases were there for you? Like,
have you had a hoe phase?
Oh, I definitely had a hoe phase. But my first relationship was also the first person I lost my virginity to. So, I can only lose it once. And
it doesn't grow back.
I was just thinking that. I was like, there's only one.
There's only one time, honey. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And I was with that person for 4 years. So when I came out of that, like, the only thing I knew about sex was lovemaking and having sex with intimacy, and I only associated sex with feelings. So when I came out of that, I ended up in a massive situationship, because I was on the rebound. So I was dating someone but not wanting to commit because I wasn't ready to commit, because I was still in love with my ex-boyfriend. So again, like, just being really selfish, not communicating that I pretty much just wanted the benefits without having to commit. And then I think after that is when I realized I had to be a little less reckless, and I went again on that massive kind of hoe phase.
After you realized you needed to be less reckless?
Less reckless, but like what it was like, I wasn't involving feelings in my sexual life anymore. Yeah. So I guess in that sense that I was being more upfront. I only wanted sex. Most guys are okay with that.
It's true, they are.
But you get to a point where I think almost everybody in their hoe phase gets to a point where they realize that sex is an energy exchange. So even though
this is massive for us.
Yeah. So the more casual sex you have, or like the one night stand, you kind of realize you're starting to feel really drained, and you're starting to feel you'll feel gross the next morning. You feel really dirty.
Oh my gosh. I've only had a few.
Tell the truth now.
Oh, honestly, I've only had a few now. I've really only had maybe 2 one night stands, and the way I felt the next day, I was like, I was soulless for like a week. I just felt so dirty and like just like depressed and dark.
Yeah.
But I don't, like, some girls can do that all the time, but I couldn't. Like, it was so gross.
Yeah. And I think it's because it's selfish sex. Like you're both going in it to get your nut and leave. You're not going in it to make that other person feel good.
Not only that, but with it being that sexual energy exchange, like you're taking something from them and they're taking something from you. So if you've got really good, nice, warm energy within you, people are drawn to that. And a guy who you're maybe sleeping with who doesn't have that is actually leaving traces of his traumas or his negative vibes in you. Does that make sense? So he's taking that and taking your energy from there. Yeah. And that's why you feel that way.
Have you, just through listening to the conversations, Eti, have you at any stage done some self-analyzing?
I think even having the girls come here, it makes you think, how do I act? How do I treat my partner? What are the traits of a fuckboy? What are the...
He's like, I am a fuckboy.
No. Because I think I'm more in tune to opening up about feelings, open up about where I'm at. And I think that's an age thing. You know, with guys, when you get to a certain age, you start being... Probably because you know that death is not too far around the corner, you seem to be a little bit more real.
I hope not.
Oh my God,
you're ancient.
Oh my God.
But you're, like, I know what I want. So in terms of when I was in my earlier 20s, you know, doing whatever I was doing, but you know, it's made me think about probably how I conduct myself as well. Because as much as I want to be this person, or I am the person I am also a big brother. So, you know, I promote and love hip hop. But hip hop music is 100%, or well, not 100%, but a lot talk derogative. Sexual overtones.
It's pretty degrading to women.
To women. So how do I, as a person who loves hip hop, I can go, well, there are actual songs that are about love and about this and that, but the main music is not exactly really talking good about girls. So, you know, I'm just looking at the different hats that I wear, and then how I'm trying to balance which one works best, and which one is the most honest, because you know, the way I talk to my little sister is different to how I talk to obviously my partner or any other sort of female relationship. So how do you be the it's not being the good guy, it's how do you be honest and maintain like a sense of integrity, but then also how do you keep yourself in check?
I think I think the moment that you realize that your life is constructed in different sections is a big part. For instance, you can be a family person, but you can also have crazy sex down the other end of the spectrum, or you can be a God-fearing person, but at the same time also appreciate and accept people for their diversities of race and religion and sexual orientation and things like that. I think once you work out that it's okay to live in different sections of the world, then I find it's easier to be able to adapt a little bit, because I know what you mean, because you listen to a lot of hip hop, and there is a lot of hip hop that's quite degrading to women, but there's also hip hop as well which is the opposite, and that's because there's different sections in hip hop, just like there's gangster rap versus Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith type of rap, you know, type of thing. The world is made up in different sections, we're made up into different sections, and it's okay to be a bit of a chameleon at times and go from being here to that to this and that. And what I love about the conversation we're having tonight is that you guys are quite comfortable in understanding that, well, we can sit in different pods at times, you know what I mean, and adapt. Do you like the ability to being able to adapt?
Yeah. Well, I think like the humans are a very complicated being in general. Like our brains are so wild. Like it's
crazy,
it's insane. Like how like we are. Then we navigate life in these human species form things, you know. But I think like underlying, as long as you're just a good person, then you can kind of still be all of those things, you know, like as long as you're just not a cunt.
And you know,
be kind,
and we all fuck up. Like, let's be honest, we all make mistakes, we all screw up, but if you can sit there and look at yourself and go, well, deep down I'm a good guy or a good girl or a good person and that sort of thing, and I mean well, and I love those around me, and there's more positive qualities and negative qualities. And I think it's easy to not justify the mistakes, but be able to accept that you've made mistakes. Do you know what I mean? Justification's it's a terrible word. I hate the word because people find themselves trying to justify everything that we do, whether it be, you know, the food we eat or the movies we watch or the people we hang out with or the relationships that we have or
it's like an excuse.
Yeah, 100%, you know. And don't get me wrong, I've been a justifier in my life. I've tried to justify things, and at the end of the day, we can't control what other people do. We can only control what we do.
Yeah.
And these guys will tell you, I'm an example of trying to be constantly working on myself, you know, and I've had to learn not to try and justify all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been going through a similar relationship with somebody who works in the industry with me, and I'm constantly trying to justify my actions, and, you know, because I possibly overstepped a mark or not, and it depends on what perception you're looking at. But I'm done with justifying it, you know. If we continue to keep justifying constantly over and over and over again, it's hard to move forward because you're always looking back all the time.
Well, exactly. But you can't change something that's already happened.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Like, once the time is gone, it's gone. It's like you can't take back words that you've already said.
Yeah.
But
Totally separate thing. But I know that there are a couple of guys that will be listening, and we've got some friends that this will apply to. Friend zone. Can guys get out of the friend zone? Is it possible?
I think with different women, I think it's possible. But I mean, for me,
Is it clear? So for girls, once you park them in the friend zone, is that it? Has anyone
escape the friend zone.
Escape the friend zone for you guys?
I think I have pretty good judgment and intuition, so I can tell pretty much from the first date.
Yes, I was going to say that.
If I want to be with you or if it's just nothing.
Yeah.
And also, like, I feel like physical attraction and chemistry, it's either there or it isn't.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
Me. So that's probably when I would classify someone in the friend zone, unless they like glue up. Then maybe they would jump in.
It's actually a real shame because there are people that you like. Maybe there could be something with because they're so great in so many other ways, but you're just like, I just don't.
I
like
just don't
more
want to sit on your face.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I
like,
don't.
there's something you literally can't help it. Like, you know how you either you got it or you don't. But
like you can tick every box on paper.
Yeah, but
like
then
I've had a guy that's ticked every box. Like any girl would be so lucky to have him. But there was just something.
No sexual chemistry, no sexual attraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not even necessarily sexual, just sometimes that thing.
Honestly,
Yeah,
exactly.
something,
And you
and
don't
don't
vibe.
know.
You don't
Yeah.
know what it is. You can't put your finger on it, but it's just not there. And I don't think you can fake that.
Yeah, you can't.
But I've heard like people who were like really good guy and girl friends, and like they were just in the friend zone or whatever, but then they've got really drunk and then had sex and then actually realized they had feelings and then ended up together.
Or not even just feelings, but chemistry.
Chemistry,
Yeah.
because what you think the sex might have been like wasn't actually what it was, and what might have been way better. And also like your inhibitions are down, right, when you're having alcohol, so you're not thinking, what is my friend going to think if I date this guy? So
It's a difficult and odd kind of thing to navigate because you're almost in a position of like, well, I want to try it out, but it's not really there, so I don't know if I should. But sometimes you get in there and you hop in the car and you turn it on and you go, oh, that hums quite nice.
that's a good analogy.
There. But do you know what I mean? It's, you know, sometimes my dad used to say to me when we were like teenagers, whenever all my friends around, like go to a party or whatever, he goes, you know, don't be so closed-minded. You got to try the different flavors. My dad used to that was exactly the way that he used to put
Taste the rainbow.
it. Yeah.
Toe in the water.
Try the toe in the water. Try the different. We always laugh about it, even still to this day. Try the different flavors, and sometimes it's about putting yourself out there and taking a risk, and you know. But yeah, I'm a little bit like you. I sort of have a bit of an idea quite early on if there's going to be a bit of chemistry. Do you know what I mean? My partner now, very different to this type of woman that I used to date. But when we met and we talked and we'd speak and we'd hop on the phone and all sorts of things,
The click.
it was there. that thing.
That's like when they say, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
And like I've had this conversation before. People think that it's like not black and white, but sometimes it really just is. Like
people create their own grey area.
Honestly, it's really simple. Like if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. And like sometimes you just either you have it or you don't, and you try and fit someone into like a box. Like you're like, oh yeah, okay, well this is nice about them, so they can do this and this and this, but maybe we can work on this, and maybe in time this will add and this will happen. But
and you make excuses for them as
then
well.
you make excuses as well, and you're like, oh yeah, but it's probably because of this, or you try to justify it, and then actually they're just not right, and it's fine. Yeah,
we should definitely do this again. Have a part 2, I think. Because I feel like this last 1 hour and 15 minutes is just flowing by.
It's gone so fast.
Like really, really quickly. And I think we should do this again, because there is a lot of really good natural advice, good natural content, good natural opinion and discussion. I think that a lot of people would quite enjoy listening to, because you're talking about real world stuff, real life situations and that sort of thing. If you could, before we sign off, if you could say something to 15-year-old Alicia and 15-year-old Emily,
No.
What? No, come on. What would you? Should we? I tell you what. Let's go. We'll do this around the room. Everybody can do it. Etty, if you could say something to 15-year-old Etty, what would you say?
Wouldn't really be 15-year-old Etty, because 15-year-old Etty was...
Okay, tell 15-year-old Etty to watch out for 20-year-old Etty.
It would be more when I was high school, like last year high school, because I went to an all-boys school. So being at an all-boys school, there's no real interaction with girls or anything. Then I had 7th form, and I'm studying, working in nightclubs, and then women are being attracted to a 17-year-old who's never had a conversation in his life with a female, apart from like, in class, like, hey, that's it, really. But so my advice would be, I guess, I don't know. It's there's so many things I want to say, but at the same time, I look at it and I am the person I am today because of where I came from and the journey I've been through. But I guess just my advice would be try and listen more to yourself as well.
Shoko?
I would say to my 15-year-old self, probably just learn to love yourself. Like, because I'm still going through it. Like, I'm still in that process. So I would definitely say don't rely on other people for your happiness. And don't get into relationships for the sake of just being in a relationship and trying to fill some sort of void. I'll definitely just say focus on yourself, work on yourself, and that's it. I think just a bit of self-love.
I think if I could talk to my 15-year-old self right now, I would say to myself that it's okay to cry, because I was really confused as to why I would cry all the time. Even when I was 16 and 17 and treating women with utter disrespect at times as well, truth be told, I think I'd tell myself, it's okay to cry and to think of other people's feelings more. I was a prick of a teenager, like really was. I was that 16, 17-year-old kid at high school and I went to an all-boys school, but we were surrounded by just a million girls' schools. And I was one of those guys, played rugby and was at all the parties, did the musicals, sung, did a whole bunch of shit. And I was a prick, but I was still really unhappy with who I was. So be okay to cry and just learn to try and treat people with a little bit more respect, particularly my parents. Yeah.
That's a big one.
What about you guys? On a
I've
closing note.
I have a couple of things. One, don't pluck your eyebrows like that. Do not. I had the one. Nah, don't pluck your eyebrows like that.
Was it the thick then thin, or was it just the thin?
No, it was the thin.
So thin. It was in style then.
It
so
was.
It was okay.
It was cool then, but don't do it. Don't do it. Also, don't have sex, because I was very young when I lost my virginity. And don't be so hard on yourself. I think those 3 things, because I used to really hate myself, and for a long time, like most of my life, I just didn't really like who I was. And even though like now I'm pretty confident, your self-love journey doesn't stop, you know. But yeah, not to be so hard on yourself.
Well, my childhood, I was just really hella awkward. Like, I just had an awkward high school period. Like, I got bullied a lot, and like I just never really found my safe place. Like, I always try to fit in with the people that everyone liked, and also in my family, I was so different to everyone in my family. Like, I'm an Aquarius, so I'm really free spirited. I'm really relaxed.
I'm an Aquarius too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
And I lived in a house where everyone was pretty like by the book, really rigid, and like it made me feel like everything that I was doing was wrong. So I think my main advice to myself was that like just live your truth, and that circumstances change, and that eventually the right people will find you that align with what you believe in as well.
That's good.
If you're out there, definitely read The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's a very, very good book. It's not a big book. It's a very easy book to read, and you'll be amazed. I've actually found the old copy, and it had a little note written in the front of it from my girlfriend at the time.
Cute.
It was quite it was insightful at the time, like looking back at it retrospectively. But I'd love for us to do this again. You guys have an amazing product. Just one more time, how can we find you on social media?
So Whose Pussy Is This podcast on Instagram, but the U in pussy is an underscore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on YouTube as well.
On YouTube, we're Whose Pussy Is This, just your standard spelling. And then on Spotify, we're Whose Pussy Is This, but the S's and the pussy are $signs.
Ooh, we're not going to read too much into that.
But we're not making any money yet.
Yeah. Hey, join the bloody line. That's us.
We're manifesting that 25 mil Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
That's the
Do
one.
it, girl.
Yeah.
And you can do it just by talking your truth
Yeah.
and all that.
100%.
Cool. Emily, Alicia, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's been an awesome pleasure to have you guys in and have a bit of a chat. And this is Culture.